Hey, Hary, Casimir here with Boat Marketing Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We have an awesome episode lined up for you today. It's how the right marketing, internet marketing, can help increase your boat sale. So with that, we're gonna just unfold some of the key things that you can do on the digital world so that you can not only increase your bottom line, but increase your brand awareness and be at the present when that potential customer search for you online. Without further ado, let me introduce Sydney, the digital marketing manager here, and I will be asking her some questions and kind of going through the motion of unpack what it takes to help a boat dealer increase their boat sales. So, Sydney, why don't you introduce yourself and give us an idea of what we're going over today?
Okay, so hello everyone. Again, my name is Sydney, Digital Marketing Manager, here to help you guys understand how using the right internet marketing tactics can help you to increase your boating sales. So I guess the first thing that we want to start on is why internet marketing is important for boat dealers and for pretty much anyone in the marine industry. So there are a couple of key reasons I want to touch on. I think anyone can see, we're in a highly digital world, so internet marketing is important really for any industry, but for this industry in particular. First of all, having the right internet marketing and a good online presence, it establishes your brand and your credibility. So, if someone's coming to you to buy a boat, it is a really big purchase, so you want to kind of establish that relationship of trust. And if you have a great website that they can go to and get all this information, that's going to do that, as well as the awareness that some of the things we're going to talk about are going to build. If people are like, oh, I've seen you online, when I go search for a boat dealer, you're the first person that pops up, that kind of establishes that credibility. And then second of all, it's going to get you in front of the right users. So through the methods that we're going to talk about, the right person that is interested in your product, the right demographic of person in your area, you're going to be able to get in front of them through these targeting methods that we can use. And then last but not least, internet marketing just in general has a lower cost than a lot of traditional advertising and will increase your return. So things like print advertising in magazines or newspapers, things like billboards, things like radio or TV can be very expensive and not necessarily have the same volume of lead generation. So this is something you can do that is actually less expensive and you will most likely get more leads from.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Sydney. So I guess we're just going to dive into some of the key elements that can help a boat dealer, whether you're a boat dealer or a boat club rental. What are some of the kind of, if we were to drill down before we get into the specific detail, but what are the kind of, if you could break this down into 5 to 6 things that these businesses could use to ensure that their sale can be increased, what would you list them as?
Okay, so if I had to kind of list those most important things, number one will definitely be just the website in general to start with, which will kind of elaborate on that, how a website is basically your best lead generation tool. And then kind of in tandem with the website is SEO, or search engine optimization. And then from there, there's also local SEO. And then 2 other great marketing tools and lead generation tools are social media and pay-per-click advertising. So that's kind of the overview of what we're going to talk about.
That's fantastic. But well, let's just get right into it. So tell us a little bit, when it comes to website, what are the things that a boat dealer, whether it's a boat dealer or boat rental club, what are the things that one should be aware of? As you know, most of these business owners, they are not webmasters. So many of them relying on their team or an outside agency that they hired to do this work. So what are the things that, from a layman term, dumbed down version of this, what are the things that the general manager, the marketing director, or the owner of those dealers, what are the things that they should be aware of when it comes to their website?
Okay, so yeah, like you said, not everyone is going to have a very, technical knowledge of everything. So these are kind of just a few key points to make sure your website has, whether that is you, as a business owner, communicating that to the team or kind of working collaboratively with an agency to figure out how you can do that. So like I said, website is definitely the top, lead generating tool that you can have when it comes to digital marketing. So that should really start with a good design, a user-friendly design that's going to prominently display your listings. That's really, the main purpose that you kind of want your website to have. So when I say user-friendly design, essentially you are just, thinking of the end user whose goal as a boat dealer is going to be, to want to purchase a boat from you. So make sure that your website is designed in a way that when that user comes to your website, they're going to be able to find what they're looking for, and easily browse through those listings. So obviously, like you said, you might not necessarily have the technical knowledge to do that, but whether that's, going on your website and looking for those pain points that a user might reach and figuring out how you can make it easier for the end user to really reach that goal. And then a couple other things which I touched on: SEO, which is search engine optimization, which is, making your website rank better in search engines. So there are kind of two sides to that, which is the content driven side and then the technical side. So your website should incorporate a keyword driven content strategy. So kind of think about the things that those users might be searching for and figure out how you can incorporate that throughout the site, which could be through blogging, through just the content on the website, landing pages. And then again, when your site is built, make sure that the technical steps that are necessary for Google to crawl and index your site are done. Most business owners are not going to be experts in the technical side of that, but it's just something to be aware of to make sure, your agency or whoever you're working with is keeping that in mind. And then last but not least, in terms of being a lead generation tool, your website should always include prominent calls to action throughout. So make sure your phone number is there, make sure there's a contact page where they can email you, make sure on whatever boat listing pages there's, a call to action of, if you're interested in this boat, here's how you can contact us, get in touch with us. That should be kept in mind throughout every aspect of the website.
That's fantastic. And if I can echo what you said, your last point here, and even add a bit to it, again, website is one of those elements and your marketing piece that could be one of the most powerful you have. And the key here is to ensure whenever the user gets to your site, your website is ready to present that information. And those call to action, as Sydney mentioned, is not just kind of a quick button, but make sure the phone number is clear, your navigation is clear, and we will have a podcast regarding kind of specifically about how to lay out the website. But for now, we're just gonna go over the quick overview. But making sure you have a proper navigation, those buttons on the home page, and maybe depending on what kind of market you are in and what kind of boat you are selling, make sure that if there is a possibility, add a search right on your site, so that way the user does not have to think too hard. Or if you can, or as well, is breaking down some of the content for the user. Let's say, for example, if you only carry 2 brands of boats or even 4 brands of boats, you can really present this right and there for them, so without pushing them to search or even look hard, because that way you don't waste their time, you get them the information they need. And sometimes when you help people get to the information they need, they make quicker decision, and that decision is a lot of time can lead to a sales for your organization. So again, those are the key elements, and making sure the call to action on their website is right in front of the user. That's including making it easier for them to get to where they need to go. So I guess the next step, I know, Sydney, you mentioned SEO, and I really want to kind of would love to learn a little bit more how some of the key elements include inside the SEO. How do a business owner, like the general manager or the marketing director that's listening to this podcast, how do, after they have a nice website, again, nice website is almost like having your building. Your mom and dad and their cousin will know about it. Until you tell people about this building, no one will know. It's the same thing as a website. Now you have a pretty website. No one knows about your website. Obviously, people that work for you will know, people that work with you will know, but how do you let the world know through SEO that this website is the place to land?
Yeah, exactly like you said, kind of your website is that, tool that you want to get people to, but you have to do other things to kind of start driving that traffic to go there. So that's when, the marketing side of everything really comes in. So when it comes to SEO, it can be very complicated just because it's not really a one size fits all approach. There's a lot of elements that go into it. So I think in a later episode, we'll definitely touch on breaking it down, you know, every element that kind of goes into it to get more understanding of it. One of the main aspects of it that I want to touch on is what we call local SEO, just because it is a little bit different in a way, I guess, from traditional steps you take on your website. Local SEO is something that's kind of, in a way, I don't want to like say it's easier, but it's a little bit quicker and easier to do because it incorporates your local Google My Business listing. So as most people know, when you search on Google, there's a couple different ways the search engine results get pulled in, and a lot of times you see those map listings get pulled in, and that's kind of where local SEO comes in. And it's a good way to establish your local presence and drive searches. So, if you're in Florida, if people are searching near me or they search your city's name, a lot of times it's going to trigger Google to pull in these map searches. So to start working on that, you just claim and optimize your Google My Business listing and then kind of start driving traffic based on those local searches. And you can also get reviews through here, which is great because reviews are really important to kind of establishing your credibility and that trust that we kind of talked about. So this will also pull in reviews if you have those. So it's a really good way to kind of start building your brand's reputation and help with ranking well in search engines.
That's fantastic. So when it comes to maybe kind of when it comes to adding, we don't want to go into this like too detailed on this, but if you could give us an idea, if I'm not technical, and I was like, well, adding my business to my Google business should be easy. How do you go about getting your business there? Is there something that you have to do, or does Google automatically grab your business and add it to the map for you? How does that work?
Yeah, so that it kind of does depend because Google does kind of scan the information that they have to pull in information. So it may have already added your business to the map. All you have to do is go to google.com/business. It's very simple to get started. And from there, you can type in your business's information and see if it's already been added to the map listing. And from there, you can claim the listing as your own. And it'll give you a couple of options on how you can verify that. Either they can call your phone number that's listed under your business and they'll give you a little code to enter to verify it, or they can send you a postcard in the mail. So it'll get sent to your business's address with a code that you can enter to verify it, just to make sure that they can, verify that you are the person that owns that business. And then from there, you'll have your listing claimed and you'll be able to edit information, add new information, link off to your website. You can even share posts to make it almost like another form of social media through there and kind of get started on all that. So the process is fairly simple to get started to claiming your listing.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you. Yes, thank you so much. That's great information for those who want to go in by themselves and figure it out how to grab your business. I hope this helped. And again, as we go on through this, if there's ever a time you have questions you would like for us to help with some of the stuff some of the tips that we have here, feel free to just email us, and then we'll be more than happy to help. So with that, now we have the website. We're getting our local SEO modules ready and on. So the next step really we go to is, I know something you mentioned earlier, is social media and how this can make a big difference on your online presence and possibly just get in front of more clients, ultimately to sell more boats. So can you dive into social media for us, and how does that affect the overall message that we're trying to push out there to get more clients, more customers to come to buy a boat from us?
Yeah, so social media is a great way to continue to increase your boating sales in two ways. So, like we touched on before, your credibility and your trust is really important to the customer when they're making a big purchase for you. So they can go to your website and, see this great website you have with all your listings, and then just having another place to go to kind of engage with you, get more information about your business, see, that you're posting, that you're active, all those kinds of things kind of helps build that trust. And then again, it is also a tool to drive new business and generate new leads to kind of get in front of more people on there that maybe didn't already know about you. So there's kind of two sides to social media. There's the organic side and then there's the paid side. So the organic side, you can just, it doesn't cost anything to do other than, your time or working with an agency. You can just post, and I would recommend for a boat dealer or most boating businesses, whether they're rentals, clubs, to focus on Facebook and Instagram, because I think that's where a lot of your users are going to be most engaged just based on the demographics, as well as those mediums are very visual. And I think with, a great product like a boat, you can be very visual with your content to kind of capture people's attention. So really just posting to engage your existing fans and then get in front of new customers and your target audience if you have, very shareable things. And it can be, just sharing your boat models and featured listings, sharing things, around your dealership. We just sold a new boat today, something like that. Special offers if you have manufacturer promotions, things like that, just pushing things like that out and sharing them. And then you can also utilize paid advertising through social media. On Facebook in particular, you can get really targeted with the demographics. So whether that's just, basic demographics like age, gender, marital status, geographic location, things like that. And then you can also utilize interest in behaviors. So you can target people who are interested in boating, interested in fishing, interested in the specific brands that you carry, even just people who are, outdoor enthusiasts and things like that, and kind of build out those audiences from there and then get the things you're posting in front of them.
That's fantastic. Now, can you, again, coming back, as I mentioned earlier, just like my Google My Business, I'm no technical person, just happen to be part of this great organization that's selling boat, whether I'm the digital marketing director, whether I'm the salesperson, general manager, the owner. How do I go about getting my social media set up? And that would be that almost like a two-part question. But the first one, how do I go about getting my social media set up? And the second question inside the same one is, do I really need a social media presence? And why should I have one?
So I'll start with the second part of the question just to kind of lead into it. So I would say, yes, I do think you need a social media presence. Like I said, it is just a way to kind of establish your credibility and your visibility online. I know me personally, and a lot of people that we see, if you were interacting with a business and you were going to make a large purchase with them, specifically, something like purchasing a boat, which can be, very expensive for some people, one of the bigger purchases that they're going to make, you want to really do your research on that company that, you're giving your money to. And, having a website is great, but I think having social media really kind of takes you to that next level of establishing your credibility and then just building your online presence so people can know who you are and then new users can find you, because SEO, is great and you can put a lot of time and energy into your website and getting that ranking, but this is a whole other, piece of the pie, a whole other, set of the market that you can utilize. And like I said, with it being so visual, I think there's just a huge opportunity for this industry, and you would be missing out on a lot if you didn't have it. So I personally would say, yes, you do need it. And if you don't have it, you do still have your website, but you are missing out on a lot if you don't have it. So that's kind of how I feel about that. And then
okay, so how do we, and then I guess segment into the first question that we reversed. Again, I'm not a technical person. How do I go about getting my social media account on and connect with my website? How does that work?
yes. So to have manage a Facebook page, you do need to have a personal Facebook account. So I would say, most people have those, not everyone does. So if you do, you would just need to go to Facebook and get that set up for Instagram, you don't need to have a personal account, so you could just start that from scratch if you wanted to. But Facebook has a really awesome tool called the Business Manager, which kind of allows you to have everything all in one place and manage that. So if you wanted to set up a page for your company, you would just go to their website, which is just business.facebook.com. That's kind of a place where you can start. And then it really just walks you through the steps of how to create a page and start from there and just set up your page, fill in all your business's information. And then, of course, you're going to want to cross promote everything. So make sure your Facebook page is linking off to your website and make sure that your website is linking off to your Facebook page. And then if you do want to run ads, you do have to set up an ad account. But again, you can start at that business manager page and set it up all through there. And Facebook really walks you through the steps to set things up yourself. And then, of course, if you are working with an agency, they have experts that can help you every step of the way.
Fantastic. So now we touch on the website, we get our SEO on, get our social media set up. The next thing is pay-per-click. You mentioned pay-per-click stands for PPC. How does that tie in back to the website, which eventually ultimately helped me increase sales?
Yes, so pay-per-click, PPC or pay-per-click is basically online advertising that you can do where you only pay when someone clicks on the ad or clicks through your website. So like we talked about, in the very beginning, a lot of this stuff is a lot cheaper in terms of your investment that you're going to do. And this is a great example of that because if you have, a radio ad or a TV ad or a billboard, you really don't know how many of those people even really look at it and pay attention to it, let alone are actually going to follow up with your business. So in this, you're really only paying if someone clicks on the ad and goes through to your website. From there, of course, maybe not every single one of those people is going to convert into a new lead, but you're saving a lot more money by kind of using an advertising method like this. So there are a couple different platforms, but the most popular one by far is Google Ads. And there's a couple different ways within Google Ads that you can utilize this. So one of the most popular ones is search ads, which basically allows you to bid on specific keywords. So if someone is searching for boat dealers near me, boat dealers in my location, the name of the specific boat brand you carry, names of a specific model, et cetera, you can bid on those keywords to have your website appear in the search results. And it will come up, just like a text result when you search on Google and you see, a list of websites come up. It'll come up among those. And then if someone clicks through to your website, you'll pay a small amount. And this can vary depending on competition, but I would say on average, you're going to pay around $2 per click, could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more in search ads. So you can kind of get an idea of that, of where to set your budget. And then there are also a couple other advertising methods. There's retargeting, which I feel like everyone kind of knows what retargeting is because we've all seen it happen to us. They just don't know what it's called. It's when you're browsing online on a certain website and then you see an ad for them pop up later. That's what retargeting is. So Google allows us to gather certain data on who visits our website. So if someone visits your website, is browsing around, but they don't take that conversion action, whether it's making a phone call, filling out a form, etc., we can follow them and serve ads to them as they browse to drive them back to the website. And then there's also display, which it serves banner ads, which are similar to retargeting. So if you're, browsing on a website and you see a little ad on the sidebar that says, boats for sale, click through to the website, and that allows you to use similar targeting demographics like we talked about in the Facebook in terms of you can target people based on who they are because Google, gathers data on their users. So their interests, what they're shopping for, their age, where they are, things like that. You can kind of build an audience and say, I want to serve these ads to these users, and again, continue to drive traffic to your website. And again, you only pay when someone clicks on the ads. Those display and retargeting, which are banner ads, are typically a lot cheaper than search ads, usually less than $1, around maybe 30 to 50 cents per click. So your investment is, very worth it relative to what you're going to get out of it.
That's fantastic, and those are fantastic information here in terms of when you detail out. I mean, there are three ways that if I could summarize what you just said, Sydney, those three ways is really text ad, display ad, and retargeting. And we're just covering just Google. Obviously, pay-per-click can be applied applies to many other different segments and other platform as well, including Bang, which we're not gonna go into the detail right now. We will have a podcast dedicated just to different search engine, but Bang and even sometimes Facebook, depending on how the ad is displayed. Those are fantastic information, and thank you, Sydney. Now, one of the things that I know, as right now we covered the website, we covered the SEO, we covered the social media, we covered the pay-per-click, and but before we go into kind of a summary of this thing, I want to kind of almost like call this um, a quick overview of some of the elements also that you can include, and those are piece that we will eventually have individual podcasts for. But on your website itself, one of the things I would suggest people do is make sure you have a blog that regularly get posted on. So whether it's brand new content and at least once a week, a new blog post, and also get someone or the agency you deal with to shoot at least one video a week to give a status or give a demonstration or give an idea, kind of become that resource center for the customer when they search or when they come to your website. So it's not just, they don't just come for the board, although that's what you want them to stay for, but they can find additional information, very informative information. For example, you can have a blog post about how to get your boarding license in X states, whether it's in Michigan, Florida, wherever that might be. There's something that a person might be searching for. Find that information and read about it. And since they are on your website, they start browsing. And guess what happened? Before you know it, that person may become a potential customer. So keep that in mind. Have a resources section on their website that hosts your blog, your video, and so forth. Another thing that's we see does miracle is making sure you have testimonial from your customers. Right? It's very easy nowadays to capture customer testimonial, whether it's through Google My Business itself, which is the review section in Google, whether it's through Facebook, but sometimes follow up directly with the customer, or if you have the agency that you work with that's dedicated to do the reputation management for you, that can handle all this review, but make sure those are in your website so that it gives the potential customer social proof to come back. Another thing that I would highly recommend, we do have on our website, we do have a checklist, the ultimate checklist for boat dealers. Those are the elements, some of the things that we cover in this podcast are part of this checklist, where you can download that checklist for free and go over the detail and check out if your website is in compliance to some of those stuff. One of the other elements that I want to mention is ADA compliance. This is a very, very hot topic, and we're not going to cover ADA here on this podcast. I do, however, want to mention it because it is very, very important that your website is in compliance. And in compliance really solve a lot of different issues for your website. Not only it allows more people to visit your website and have access to your website, but also it keeps you out of legal trouble and so forth. So we highly recommend that. Now, on this very fast round, Sydney, is there anything else that I did not cover? I mentioned the resources section on the website. I mentioned the ADA compliance. I mentioned the checklist. Is there anything else before we get into the overviews and the summary of this podcast?
I think you pretty much covered it. And just to kind of another way that stuff can be utilized is the more content you have, things like blog posts, things like videos, things like testimonials, you can always repurpose the content and kind of cross it across the different channels that you have. So if you have a video that you recorded for using on your website, you can also use that on social media, and you could use it as a video ad on YouTube, through Google. Blogs are great for your website, great for SEO. You can also post those on social media. to drive more traffic, or you can pull even quotes from your blogs to use as graphics on social media and things like that. So, all these things will kind of make the full circle in a way of all your marketing efforts coming together, and you can kind of use whatever content you have and repurpose it. So it's great to, include all of that.
That's fantastic. So again, thank you so much, Sydney, for a lot. You unpacked a lot on this today. So really, kind of any final words or any suggestions you could leave for listeners and takeaways for today?
I think overall, like we said, your ultimate lead generation tool is really going to be your website. So really, start from there. Make sure you have a good design. Make sure you have all your listings and all your boats, displayed there. Make sure you have those calls to action throughout. And then everything else you do, from social media to local SEO, pay per click, is really going to be focused on driving that traffic to your website. And then the traffic to your website will ultimately result in you getting more leads. So it's really just a whole process, but kind of start with a good foundation is my best recommendation.
Awesome. So again, Sydney really unpacked a lot for us today. Again, kind of if we were to break this down, again, have your website really good to go, a good website, call to actions. Make sure you get your SEO ready for your specific demographic, for your specific location, for a specific brand you carry, the models you carry, and then making sure that you are always present in social media. Where you may think that you may not need social media, but social media is one of the aspect of our lives now that can't be denied. You have to accept it for what it is and really be part of it and embrace it. You may not love it, but it is what it is, and your customers are there, and if they are there, you might as well be there. And coming to PPC, and if I may, and PPC is one of those kind of one of those things that if you want instant result, PPC is the way to go. SEO take a little bit time. Social media take a bit time to build that awareness, brand visibility, but PPC, you can turn on PPC right now, and as long as you have proper call to action, making sure you help the potential customer find the information that they are looking for, PPC is guaranteed to bring people to your website and possibly turn them into leads. So again, some of the key elements as we discussed is making sure on your website you have a resources sections, and part of that, making your website easy to use, user friendly, making information available to people, is making sure your website is ADA compliance as well. So with that, as I mentioned, we do have a checklist on our website at boatmarketingpost.com. If you would like to get a hand on this, please feel free to head there now. It's boatmarketingpost.com, and just on the homepage, click on download checklist, and then we get a copy to you right away, and then you can kind of start checking the boxes to ensure that your website meet what we mentioned here. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We would love to even give you more information as we proceed with more podcasting, and just stop by anytime. And again, feel free to visit us at boatmarketingpost.com. And if you have any comment, tips, and any questions, and any subject you would like us to touch base on, feel free to email us at podcast@boatmarketingpost.com. Thank you so much. Make this website shine and bring more sale to your dealers. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sydney.